This is the new BMW X5, launched in March 2007, but for a moment or two, we're more interested in the buildings behind it. All BMW X5s are built in Spartanburg, South Carolina, USA, and that's where BMW took British journalists to sample the new car, rather than wait the 6 weeks or so for the first production cars to cross the Atlantic. The Spartanburg plant is pretty impressive. It's the only plant to build the Z4 Coupe and Z4 Roadster as well as the X5, and it's a little odd to see big SUVs and little roadsters coming down the same production line. The original X5 was built here too, and the Americans are justifiably proud to proclaim that BMW's 4x4 was born in the USA. The new X5 is very different from the old model, but the casual observer would be hard-pressed to spot the changes. The front is all new, as are the rear lights, which are now L-shaped, but the biggest change is in its dimensions. Longer, wider and taller than the old car, the new X5 is now big enough to offer an optional third row of seats, although our test car was a 5-seater with a huge boot. Inside there was leather everywhere, good legroom in the rear as you'd expect, while the two front seat occupants had bags of room. The dash was familiar BMW territory, and the X5 now gets the Idrive System, controlling the audio, sat-nav and aircon for the first time. A rear-facing parking camera is an option. There's also a new gear stick that looks suspiciously like something the Sony PlayStation people might have designed. Launched in 1999, the original X5 made its name as an off-roader that offered impeccable on-road driving manners. After all, spending upwards of £40,000 on a 4x4 makes absolutely no sense if it doesn't perform and handle well on-road. A number of other manufacturers have since followed BMW's lead, and it's interesting that when virtually any large SUV is launched these days, invariably it's the X5 that's usually at the top of the list of its likely competitors. You'd be astonished then if BMW had gone all hardcore for the new X5. They haven't, preferring to refine and tweak rather than start again from scratch. As a result, the new X5 is extremely good on road, more like a limo with four-wheel drive than an old-school 4x4. In the UK, it'll come with a choice of 3 engines, a 3-litre petrol, a 3-litre turbo diesel and a 4.8-litre V8 petrol range topper. Unsurprisingly, given fuel prices and the current fashion for hating anything with four-wheel drive, the diesel will be the best seller. Only one trim level, SE, is offered, although that might well change in the future, and all cars get a 6-speed automatic transmission as standard. Lots of electronic driver aids are also included in the hefty price tags, from dynamic traction control to a hill start assist system, and even a sensor that applies the brakes harder if it detects that the brake pads are losing bite because of overheating. As well as tarmac, we were able to try the X5 on these gravel roads in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Again, the cars were very comfortable, although we did detect a slight rise in noise from the run-flat tyres, another standard item. At this point, I'll be honest and say I wasn't too impressed by BMW's decision to fit run-flats on a 4x4, but the company says most punctures these days involve gradual losses of pressure rather than blowouts, so I'll reserve judgment. Back in Spartanburg, BMW's Performance Driving Centre has a man-made course to demonstrate some of the X5's off-road abilities. It would have been nice to try something a bit more challenging, but at least BMW made the effort, unlike some SUV manufacturers. That's another thing. The X5 is apparently a sports activity vehicle, not a sports utility. That's marketing hype, I suspect, since utility smacks of cheap, but cheap is one word you could never use to describe the X5. The 3-litre petrol X5 costs just under £40,000, with the diesel engine adding about £600. The 4.8 V8 is a whisker under £50,000, although at least the cars are all well equipped. Being BMW, there is of course an extensive extras list, if you want to spend even more. Fuel economy ranges from 22 miles to the gallon for the V8 to over 32 for the diesel, with all 3 models able to top 130 miles an hour and sprint from 0 to 62 in less than 8.5 seconds. Despite BMW's figures that say that 86% of X5s are bought by men aged between 41 and 50, the car's image is still a cross between footballers' wives and Chelsea tractor. That's the problem. The new X5 is a great vehicle that'll carry 7 on or off-road. With the diesel engine, it'll return half-decent economy, and yet its image, and those prices, will almost certainly cause some prospective buyers to look elsewhere.